Hi, welcome everyone. We are back again with our MRSI Wednesday webinar. We are in our ninth season and we are very excited for today's webinar. Today's topic is the reset consumer, understanding the new psychology of choice. As market researchers and marketers, we often assume that consumers make decisions based on information, logic, and careful evaluation. But in reality, many of our choices are influenced by emotions, context, habits, and even in the way options are presented to us. Can you go back, Sandesh, to the first slide? At GoaFest 2026, MRSI hosted a highly appreciated masterclass on this topic. Given its popular demand and to reach a wider audience, MRSI is bringing this session to you as a webinar. In today's session, we'll explore how consumer decisions are shaped, why people often hesitate even when they have enough information, and how behavioral science can help us better understand and influence decision making. We'll also look at practical examples from everyday consumer behavior, healthcare, habit change, and brand choices. So let us get ready for an engaging and thought-provoking session. And as we decode the fascinating psychology behind how people choose. Next slide, Sandesh. Before we go into the webinar, a quick note on MRSI. Market Research Society of India is the premier not-for-profit association of both providers and buyers of research and insights. MRSI aims to create awareness of the industry among general public at large and as well as the government. It strives to provide a platform to market researchers to engage and showcase their work and collaborate on common issues. The MRSI Wednesday webinar is a key initiative to address these goals. The webinar is conducted monthly once, typically on a third or fourth Wednesday from 1 to 2 p.m. Next slide, please. Next slide, yeah. MRSI is managed by a committee of professionals from various sectors and industries, led by Mr. Nitin Kamath of TAM Media Research, President of MRSI. Next slide. Next slide, please, Deshi. A quick intro to MRSI Wednesday Webinar Organizing Committee. We have Abhinav Goyal from Nestle, Uttara Dhawan and Adya Singha from the Third Eye, Sundar Muthuraman, independent marketing consultant, marketing and market measurement, Amita Mishra from Neotric Research, and myself, Shiva from Curious Cat Consulting, and I will be the host for today's webinar. Next slide, please. Here are our esteemed speakers for the day. Prakash Sharma. He is the co-founder of 1001 Stories and a leading advocate of behavioral science and context architecture. He helps organizations to understand the influence of human behavior. He works with brands and business to solve real-world challenges through behavioral insights and strategy. Prakash is also the president of Diversify Global, a network of applied behavioral science firms across 22 countries. A frequent speaker at IIT, IIMs, and industry forums. He is passionate about making behavioral science accessible and actionable. Welcome, Prakash. Param Venkataraman. Param is the co-founder of Three Big Things, a behavioral design studio. He is one of India's pioneers in design thinking and behavioral design with over 28 years of experience. He has worked with leading Indian and multinational companies to drive customer-centric innovation and behavioral transformation. Param has held leadership roles at IDEO India, Dr. Reddy's, Fractal Analytics, Tata Digital, where he built and led and also designed behavioral science teams. His work focused on applying behavioral science, design thinking, and mindfulness to solve business and human challenges. Welcome, Param. And thank you for both of you for being here today. Next slide, please. Before we begin, a quick request to the audience. Please type in your questions in the question panel provided during the session. You may address the question to a specific speaker or to both our speakers. Param and Prakash will be happy to answer them during the Q&A session at the end of the webinar. And answering one of the frequently asked questions, yes, the webinar is recorded and will be available on MRSI's website and MRSI YouTube channel shortly. With that, I would like to hand over the floor to Prakash and Param. Over to you, Prakash.
Thank you so much, Shiva, for the warm introduction. And Param, nice to catch up with you again. Always a pleasure sharing a stage, whether it is in person or virtually. Life is good that way. I feel very happy to do this again with you. And people in the audience will know why I'm so excited. I'm doing this, Param. In a few minutes, when Param will take us through his part, his journey, the way he looks at the world. Meanwhile, two things. Number one, we are going to forget a good amount of whatever Param and I will talk about today. It does not mean we have poor memory. It doesn't mean we are poor listener. It is just the design of the human brain. We are not supposed to remember, recollect each and everything. Right? And if that is the design, It's not a bug, it's a feature. The best way, and Shiva was kind enough to tell us right at the beginning, it will be recorded. It's going to be on the channel. And yet, I think one of the best ways to attend this seminar would be to pretend this is a one-time thing. And when we are done in an hour from now, it is done, right? And if that is our reality, and if you can't remember everything, what would be the one takeaway that we want from this particular seminar? Whatever it is that speaks to you, please pick it up and say, oh, I'm happy, I like this. I want to remember this even 5 years, 10 years from now. So request number one is that. Request number two, questions, please fire away, put them up in the chat box. We'll find a way to answer those questions. We'll do it at the end of this session. If not, you can reach out to Param and me through LinkedIn. Put those questions to us. We love talking with people, so please fire away your questions, right? And as we start now, the very first thing in mind is reset consumer, right? And what does this reset consumer really mean? I want to start with that. The consumer is changing is an oft repeated claim. We've heard about this in multiple forums. We read about this regularly. A lot of people have a point of view. There is a very interesting point of view from a very famous author, and I screenshot it out there, and it says, yet agencies continue to peddle the myth that consumers have changed radically, right? And it's a very interesting statement to make. And it is something close to me personally, this particular statement. Is the consumer really changing? And I had written about this around 5 years ago. I said, if you look at the dictionary meaning of the word consumer, right, a person who buys goods or uses services, which means there are two components: the person, number one; number two, buying goods or using services. Now, granted, the fundamental drives that make us human, they do not change. It took almost 1 million of years for us to evolve into this. It will take maybe another 1,000,000 years for us to change completely. The fundamental core remains same. But what about buying goods or using services? They are a factor of 2,000 macro influences around us. There was no online shopping in the past. There is today. There was no convenience of a 5-minute, 10-minute delivery in the past. There is today. So given those realities, is it okay to say consumer has changed? Because the way we can consume has changed, right? And if you look at that, history gives us a very interesting point of view. Look at this particular quote. Jeff Bezos said 25 years ago, I would like to have 4.5 million separate stores for 4.5 million customers, right? You go back again some couple of years in the past, people don't want to buy a quarter-inch drill, they want to buy a quarter-inch hole. Fantastic point of view. People had more by appearances than by realities. That's Julius Caesar, right? In fact, when me and Param were doing a research for this particular presentation, we found this amazing artifact blast from the past. This, for people who are curious, is a complaint. Somebody almost 4,000 years back purchased copper from someone, did not like the quality of it, and wrote down a review, a complaint letter. The first Google review, if you want, and इसको एक star भी नहीं मिला, right? Almost 0 stars. I am pretty sure, Param, when that happened, and when that seller got this particular letter 4,000 years back, the first thing the person must have said, I think the consumer has changed. With that, now the whole idea is things remain the same but slightly different. Same but different. If you look at me, Prakash Sharma, right? I work with behavioral science, I understand psychology. I was supposed to take my daughter out shopping because the school was opening out here. And I took her shopping and I put down very clear rules. Budget, 2,500, no snacks, no chocolate, no ice cream, no Uber, we'll take the metro. I put up a strict budget because I want to teach her about being careful when it comes to consumption. When we came back home, we had spent 5,000 bucks, almost double. My daughter was not to blame out there. The reason we ended up spending double the budget was I, who works with consumer behavior, influencing human behavior, was the one who could not resist buying this Spider-Man mask. Um, but what about you guys, right? You're going to get your income tax return very soon in the next month or 2 or 3. You get a sizable amount of money back. Are you going to spend it on a vacation? Are you going to invest it in a mutual fund? And it's very interesting because more often than not, we see people tell us they would like to go on a vacation with this particular money. And if you deep dive, it's purely because they see this as a free money or a different money. They forget the fact that when they get the money back from the government, it is still their money. There's a technical concept, it's called mental accounting. All money is not the same. We look at money differently and decide what to do with it differently basis our accounting of where this money belongs, right? Uh, so that's a nice explanation that we have different behavior. The question then is, can this behavior be influenced, right? And if I'd ask, let's say almost 1 lakh people, if I take this large sample size and say, which one would you buy, the small popcorn or the large popcorn? Depending on their mood, time of the day, the month of the, the day of the month, they may buy small or large. I think statistically we'll end up with 50-50, more or less as the split. Let's try to influence that behavior. What about now? If I'm trying to introduce one more option, right, as a medium, what happens now? Does it still remain 50-50? Do we see people skewed towards small or more towards large? What happens now? Uh, Things get really interesting when I put down a pricing logic to it. And research has proven time and again that when we take up this decoy pricing, we end up being skewed towards a particular option, which in this case is the large option. Here is the interesting part. Um, Today, if you all end up going to a mall in a cinema hall, you end up buying popcorns and you see this pricing logic and you know what's happening. Yet, most of you will end up going for the large option. Isn't that very, very interesting? Param, let's talk about the psychology of choice. All yours, sir.
Thank you. Can you hear me clearly? Okay.
Yes.
Firstly, thanks for MRSI. Thanks to MRSI for having me here along with Prakash. And as Prakash said, always a pleasure to host a session with him. We are good friends outside work and at work. So it's wonderful to do this with Prakash. Thank you. I'm going to talk a little bit about the psychology of choice through a couple of examples. I mean, while it's always interesting to talk about it in theory, but let's look at it in terms of what the real world application of this looks like. Let me just see if I can go next slide. Yes. So let's talk about a couple of examples. Some time ago, we were working on a project that was to do with healthcare, and this particular client was looking at understanding the journey of how cancer patients go through the entire process of treatment and care, and getting back to some kind of good health or normal health as close to it as possible. And in the entire journey of care, what are the places where they can actually help the cancer patients and caregivers, and where might be the best opportunities for them to engage the patients and caregivers through this journey. So that was, those were some of the questions that we started with when we started the project. And one of the things that came out of that was at the beginning, when we were interviewing a lot of doctors, especially oncologists, what we kept hearing from many of them was that when the patient is told that they have been diagnosed with cancer, many of them don't start the treatment immediately. They disappear, they go away to other places, they start doing more sort of second opinion, third opinion, fourth opinions. In fact, they repeat all the tests in some other places all over again, and they go through this entire process. Some of them even go for try and do alternative therapies like Ayurveda or other home remedies, and then they come back to this doctor eventually after a few months and say, nothing else has worked. Let me now start the treatment with you. Now, why does this happen? And the oncologists and doctors were very, were very frustrated because they could obviously see that patients were not, starting the treatment immediately. So essentially, what was happening was, and this is just an illustration of the whole scenario. The patient is given two options. One option is do the chemotherapy, we don't know, we cannot guarantee what the outcomes of it might be. And by the way, there's going to be a lot of side effects, and also the patients have heard a lot about these side effects like hair fall and all sorts of other things. Not a great option. Doesn't sound very exciting. The second option is, do a more conservative treatment. Don't go for the chemo right now. The doctor might give them more alternative medication or other medication rather, which would be less aggressive. But there is a high chance of the cancer getting worse as a result of that, right? And so both of these options are, very, very suboptimal to say the least. That's why the patients would end up going somewhere else and looking for other options. Then one of the things that we saw was that when a patient talks to a survivor, that is a person who has gone through the entire process of cancer on their own, and they've gone to the other side. When the patient now talks to a survivor, the conversation completely changes. It's now suddenly, the patient is now understanding what the journey is like. They understand the need and the urgency for taking treatment right away, and they understand that what would life look like on the other side. And it's from a person who has been through the entire journey on their own, themselves. And so suddenly the patient is now able to switch, come out of that, sort of a freeze moment, and come out of that deferring judgment moment, and actually come into a place where they're ready to make a decision and they start the treatment. And so that hack, if you will, is what would actually make the patient change from a situation of being sort of tied to two decisions, which are two options that are suboptimal, to one decision that actually feels good for them. I'm trying to move forward. Yes. So essentially what we could see here is choice one that they were given with is deal with the harsh side effects of the treatment and unpredictable outcome of the treatment. Choice number two is deal with the progression of the cancer. Both of these are suboptimal options. And then when they met a survivor, they were able to see that there is a third option available now, which is how about becoming a survivor and getting to the other side of this. And that's something, again, it's not a logical decision. It's not something that you weigh it as pros and cons, but that's really how it's working behind the scenes for them. This is one case study I want to talk about. The second one was a project that I worked on many years back, which was on smoking cessation. Quitting smoking is one of the hardest things to do for most people who have ever been smokers. And it is something that people struggle with world over, not just here in India. And so when we were looking at this project and trying to understand how do we help people quit smoking, we of course went in and did a lot of research and understanding of why people smoke. Actually, the research began with looking at why do people get into smoking? How do they get into smoking in the first place? Not just when they're trying to quit. So we looked at the entire journey from becoming a smoker to making some changes, trying to make some adjustments, and then trying to quit, and then falling off the cliff many times. Stage number 5, as you can see, is a cliff, which shows that that's really how hard it is to quit, because most people don't end up quitting on the first time. And then you go through many, many iterations, and eventually they leave it behind. One of the fundamental things that we learned in that project was that for most non-smokers, people who've never smoked, they don't understand what it is to be a smoker. They think of smokers as losers. They think of smokers as if they don't know that smoking is bad for them. Whereas one of the first things that I remember when we went to the stakeholders and we were presenting the insights, we asked how many of them in that room were smokers in their life. None of them were smokers, surprisingly, in that group. And so we then showed them the slide saying, to a smoker, smoking is actually good. And of course, they looked at us like what are you smoking, right? And of course, then we explained it further, and we said, smoking for the smoker is a way to care for their physical, social, and emotional needs. Because one cigarette does 11 jobs. And those 11 jobs, when you break it down in physiological, social, and emotional needs, the nicotine fixes only one of the needs, and that is only a physiological. There are other emotional needs and sociological needs that they're actually trying to address. For example, the physiological needs, occupying the hands and mouth, that's something that we didn't anticipate before we began the project. In fact, counterintuitively, smoking is a way for you to actually breathe deeper. It's again counterintuitive, but when you're smoking, you're actually focusing on your inhaling and exhaling, and it's again weird, but that's how it actually works. Emotionally, it's about managing stress. It's about controlling energy levels, changing gears from one activity to the other. A lot of smokers talked about smoking on the way back from office to home, while in the car, or going to bed, before going to bed after dinner. Again, all of these are changing gear activities, moment alone, and many of these, as you can see. So again, a lot of insights, that we unpacked. For example, everyone wants control. Not everyone wants to quit. And that was a fundamental reframe that we did, which is that everyone doesn't need to quit, but everyone is looking for control. So this is one of the pictures that we took from a smoker. This is not a stock image. It's an actual picture from a smoker's home where we had asked them to show us where do they keep their cigarettes. And this is the way people are actually managing their habit and trying to control it. Anyway, long story short, we pulled a lot of those insights into the actual product that we built eventually, which was essentially a digital therapeutic solution. This was for the US market. And it was looking at how do we help smokers not just quit, but also reduce or get in control of their habit. So for example, there would be features where if you click on the plus icon over here, you would get two options. You could either track an urge or you could track a smoke. So it could be just, there's no judgment. There's no, talking down to you, telling you that you should not smoke right now. It's just saying you want to track, you're having a craving and you want to have a smoke. That's your choice. Okay, you want to track a smoke, that's fine. If you want to just track the fact that you felt like a craving but didn't smoke, that's also great. And and then you can set goals for yourself, saying I'm currently smoking 10 or 20 cigarettes a day. I want to reduce it down to 3 a day, and I want to do it over the course of 6 weeks. And those 6 weeks duration is also chosen by me, and so I'm in control of how I'm going through the journey and the process. And there's a mindfulness aspect of it, which is one of the insights that we got from the research, that where most smokers don't even realize how much they're smoking and when they're smoking, even though it's become part of their day-to-day life. So the fact that 20% of your smokes are during post-lunch time because of boredom, that is one of the, showing the mirror to the smoker. And again, without judgment, it's for the smoker to figure out what they want to do with it. So that's one, that's a couple of projects. But again, these are the ways in which, how we understand and unpack the way people make choices, and how do we get to the crux of it? What makes people actually make that decision in the hot state? Those are the kind of things that we were able to unpack from this. With that, I think, yeah. So in summary, we basically looked at creating a third choice, which is, it's not about quitting smoking, which looks very difficult, or it's not about continuing smoking because it's obviously unhealthy. People start realizing that at some point of time. But it's about a new choice, that I don't need to quit this cigarette. I just need to quit this cigarette, not all my cigarettes at once, and trying to give them agency and control. So that's really what we try to do with this project. What is common in all these cases, right? I mean, I think the fundamental pattern that you might have already seen is that when people are given options or choices which are equally suboptimal, they feel like it could be 2 bad options or it could be 3. The number is not the point, but it's about the fact that there are multiple bad options in front of them. And that's when it becomes very difficult for them to choose. And so you need something that is a tiebreaker, or that's something that is going to give them a better choice. What is that better choice? What is the makeup of that better choice? I'll give you a construct for that. It takes a little while to go to the next slide. Oops. Sorry. There's a bit of a lag when I press the previous button. How do I go back? Sandesh, can you help me?
Use the arrow key.
Okay.
The upward arrow key.
Okay. Sorry, I was using the left arrow key.
No, the upward arrow key.
Nope. It's not working.
Just give me a second. This one?
Yes, that's the one.
Yeah.
So the reframe that we're looking at, the third option, has to be something where the desired outcome becomes tangible and achievable, not logically but emotionally. And once that option is there, like in the case of the cancer care journey, when a survivor was presented in front of the patient, and when the patient talks to a survivor, now that becomes the third option, where they're able to see that I can become a survivor, and this is why, and this is how I can do it. And here's someone I can relate with. It's tangible, it's achievable, it feels tangible. And that's when it becomes like a real choice that they can make at the moment and solve that dilemma. Similarly, with the smokers, it's not about quitting. It's not about trying to solve the entire journey. It's about how do I solve the next cigarette that I need to have, that, and how can it become real for me? So can I get control and agency? That's the thing that makes me feel like it's tangible and achievable. So that's really the one way of looking at unpacking these choices. Over to Prakash. He's going to share some more fabulous examples.
I loved Param, when you said, people think smoking sucks, and oh my God, smoking is so bad. Why don't you quit it and become a better human being? And I like how you share, like, no, it's not, smoking doesn't suck. Smoking is awesome when you are a smoker. When you're a smoker, I'm reminded of that Gutka project, Param, that we had discussed with you. One of the biggest findings, was we actually tried Gutka ourselves for the particular project. Same stuff, right? No one on the client team had ever tried Gutka because Gutka is EU, is to down market. I don't chew Gutka. I'll solve the problem of the Gutka chewer, but I don't chew Gutka. And so we tried Gutka, Param. I think I told you about this. My God, God exists. Gutka makes you believe in God because it's such an amazing experience. The mouthfeel, the burst, the mint, the crunchiness, the neuroscience of clenching something with your jaw and trying to crush it, the stress relief, the head getting hotter, the sweat, and then the wind blows in, and science takes place, right? Evaporation. So now behind your neck at the nape, suddenly that area is also cool. Plus, I think you told me this, like smoking is what all these apps are trying to promote. Mindfulness. 3 minutes of bliss, no one to trouble you. Gutka is 20 minutes, Param. 20 minutes of being quiet, and you don't want the juice to go out of your mouth, which means the lips are sealed. I am not even talking with you for 20 minutes. Oh my God. If you could create a product like that, thrice a day for 20 minutes, you are totally with yourself. Oof. Uh, the reason I'm talking about is also to help most of us understand how difficult it is to influence choices. It is not just a question of crafting a product or a solution. Unless you really understand what a product means for the user and you can get into their psyche, their context, there is almost no hope whether you're trying to get people off cigarette gutka or you're trying to sell them cola, right? Which brings me to this particular case. Our client tells us, uh, you know, the Tamil consumer, right? Uh, I want to sell them vegetables. I would really like it if they buy vegetables off our app, but it doesn't seem to happen. I think the Tamil consumer is very, very rational. And let me try to enable the control and see if I can move the slide now. And so there's the problem statement which came down to us. The Tamil consumer is too rational. Uh, how do I sell them vegetables? So we went on the field, we studied them for around 6 weeks. We were in Chennai, the entire team. We got back with this answer. Your problem is very simple, sir. Uh, People want fresh groceries, so they'll buy the groceries, they need to be fresh. And we gave them the invoice with GST. And the client team looked at us and said, what? There must be something more. No, sir. This is it. We've solved the big conundrum. The answer is very simple. People want fresh groceries, right? And so they stared at us and said, okay, fine, let's run with this insight. So all I have to do now is tell the people on my app, I'm selling fresh groceries. And we said, no. And the client was now confusing, what do you mean? You just told us people want fresh groceries. So why can't we be the one to tell people we are selling fresh groceries? And so there are two things. Number one, you need to understand the meaning of the word fresh, because it's not fresh that they're buying. They seek fresh. But how is it that they internally, in the structure of their mind, when they're making decision, how do they decode fresh? And it's a question not just for Chennai. What about Guwahati? How do people in Guwahati know something is fresh? The answer, if there are people from Guwahati in the audience, please feel free to type it away. What about Delhi? What about Bangalore? Right? And through research, we're able to find out something very interesting. There are in between words or mental models around how consumer decodes something. In the case of fresh, if you're from Guwahati, the word is local. Anything that is local is fresh, which means stuff from Bihar is good compared to stuff from UP. But stuff from Bengal is even better. Stuff from Kokrajhar, which is in Assam, is better than the stuff from Bengal. But stuff from Rongia, which is 1 hour drive from Guwahati, is better than the vegetable or fish from Bengal. So you get the logic. Something from Narangi in Guwahati is fantastic, but my neighbors produce lemon, chili, cucumber, cauliflower, even eggs. I would rather buy them off my neighbor because that's as local as it gets, right? When we looked at Delhi, we realized the idea of fresh in Delhi. Delhi doesn't have open fields or big gardens to grow vegetables. So Delhi's idea comes from how easy it is for me, because a lot of people in Delhi are very used to living in RWAs and calling up the chotu downstairs and saying, "Send me so and so," and it reaches their places without any question in 5 to 10 minutes. That's the idea of Delhi for fresh. I got it on time, right? So what about Chennai? That's the big question. So we told the client, first we need to understand the meaning of the word fresh in the Chennai context. And number two, you cannot be the one telling the world what you're selling is fresh. So how do you solve that kind of dilemma? Is the big question, right? There are many ways to look at the world and understand why we interpret the world the way we interpret. There are many sciences, there are many theory out there relevant to the different discipline of solving problems. For us, we look at context and we say the way we understand the world, the way we interpret the world, and then decide what to make of it is a function of that particular context, right? And we look at a couple of items or pillars out there: social norms, language, which includes, by the way, words, numbers, second order effects, and design. Trigger states, not only I am different from Param, I am also a different person compared to myself, depending on which time of the day, which particular week you're talking me with. We are also different from each other regularly. Trigger states. Our states can get triggered and changed. Collective memory, right? Everybody remembers the girl who ran down to the field, in the cricket match, the Cadbury ad, regardless of whether they were born there or not at that point of time. That's your collective memory. We carry memory as a culture. That's our myths, our folk stories. And then call of the era. What is right or okay in one era is totally wrong in a different context. I remember growing up and realizing that according to my mom, going to a restaurant was a waste of money, because for her, it's a very utility driven question. But when I look at my child, her way of exploring the world is, if you go out, you must also eat out, right? Call of the era. Uh, so it is decoding and deciphering context that helps us understand why people are behaving the way they are behaving. Is the number of choices which come in front of us. We love our choices. Param knows that. We all know that. But again, Param will be the first person to tell you, if you give too many choices, no decision gets made. So it's the number of choices. Number two, how are you going to frame these choices? And number three, what is the time and place where the choice is supposed to get executed? If you can frame these things properly, you might just be able to influence, not just understand. You might be able to even be able to influence human behavior. Let me see if I can go on to the next slide here. Fantastic, right? So this is another example. Digital first insurance company. They come to us. They say, I'm offering almost 40% reduction, discount on the insurance for the first year for the car premium for your new car, right? And I thought people in India love value for money. So if they get a good discount, I thought we'll see the sales go through the roof for our premium, for our insurance product. And we haven't seen that happening because we don't know why. Can you help us decode that? Can you help us give a solution, right? And when you looked at their communication, the main takeaway from all the communication was, come to me, my insurance is cheap. And the assumption was folks are going to say, oh my God, they are cheap, right? Uh, what was actually happening on the ground, you know, that was where the challenge was coming when it came to translating this particular communication to action. Can you see the next slide? All right. In the next slide, what I'm trying to tell here is our brain is an answering machine. It likes to answer a question, but if it's not able to answer a question, it's very comfortable replacing that particular question with a different question. So in the case of, uh, uh, you know, the e-commerce company that we're working with, decoding fresh became a question of how do I help my audience realize through my app that the item that I'm trying to sell are fresh, right? And one of the simplest solutions that the client started using was put up a small label of time and place, source at so and so time in the day from so and so place. This information is helping the customer uh, arrive at a very interesting observation on their own. If it's sourced at 5 a.m., it must be fresh. If you give me a number of pieces of this particular capsicum, I can better understand what is 200 grams. It is designing cues, contextual cues of this nature. In this particular case, that help the particular client go up and take market share and become number one in the category within 6 months. In the case of the insurance company, it was a very simple understanding of how the communication was being processed and making a small tweak in the communication, which was, let's stop calling ourselves cheap. Let's start calling ourselves the right price. And the interesting part was when we ran experiments where the takeaway from the message, come to me, my car insurance premium is the right price. The immediate reaction was, if you are right, why are others so expensive, right? In this particular framing, my competition became a villain. It was interesting for us to see everything remained the same, and yet now the decision was in favor of our client. In fact, they reported a 55% jump in inquiries right from next day in NCREs, and right now they are now, I think, one of the topmost provider of car insurance in the digital first category in the country, right? So what is it that we are trying to say in closing? I'm trying to summarize this. Uh, Number one, human behavior is nothing but reaction to context. Right? So the context decides our behavior. Number two, Param beautifully explained this to us through two fantastic cases. You need to make the desired outcome tangible and achievable. That means when you're going to reframe your choices, right, when there are suboptimal choices, see if you can find a way to make your desired outcome more tangible, more achievable, right? And the last of it is the way our brain functions is it loves answering questions, but if it can't find the answer to a question, it's clever. It's going to replace that question with a different question, a far easier question, the answer to which it already knows, or at least can make a decent guess about. So when we are providing something to our consumers, what is the new question popping in their mind? What is the most likely answer for that particular question? Thank you so much, Param. Please unmute and join in. I might have missed something here and there. Nothing like having you join in and close this.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Prakash. Thank you, Param, for the fascinating and thought-provoking presentation. It was interesting to understand that consumer not always are looking for more information, but often they are looking for reassurance and a path that feels easier to follow. That's what they're looking at. And the examples around healthcare decision, habit change, and mental accounting clearly showed us how the better understanding of human psychology can help us create more effective product, service, and communication. And thank you once again for sharing this valuable perspective with us. And now it's time for questions. Listeners, I hope you have been posting your questions in the question panel. If not, there is still time. Please type in your questions and we will take up as many as possible. And okay, opening the floor for questions, Param and Prakash. And I think the first question is for you, Prakash, from Nagarajan. How do you define today's consumers? Some say they are very rational, and many say they are still impulsive and emotional. Confusing. Please clarify.
I find this one particular line of conversation very fascinating, which is about trying to figure out the change. How are people of today? And a lot of people who are my age, they talk about Gen Z and say, oh, Gen Z are XYZ, dot dot dot, very different kind of people. And I got a couple of people in their 20s in my team, and when I speak with them, they have a point of view on kids who are like 10 to 13 years old, saying, oh, these are very different kids. And the other day I was speaking with my daughter, she is 10 years old, and she had a point of view, Shiva and Param, on how 5-year-old today are quite different folks. My daughter is 10, by the way. Right? And when I go and dig in this stuff, right, it's almost a recurring pattern. We always keep on talking about people younger than us as if they've changed significantly. In fact, there is a quote almost from Socrates from like 3,000 years back, which says, young people no longer respect authority. They are indisciplined. They're shabby. They don't keep their bear properly, right? What I'm trying to say is we should not look at the person changing. That would be a wrong approach. This is the thing I was trying to point right at the beginning also. We should always look at the surroundings of it. It's not that we have changed. It's not that I have changed as a person, or Param has changed, or you have changed. What is happening is for me, you, Param, and everybody else in the audience, the way we can consume and buy things have changed. Right? There was no YouTube in the past. There was no Netflix in the past. What's interesting today is there is a Netflix today, but also Netflix allows us to go on to the next show directly without having to do any kind of intervention. It plays the next episode really quickly. It doesn't mean people today like to binge. Had this existed 20 years back when Param and me were in college, we would have also been binging. It's just that the context around us keeps on changing, right? So the right question then is, what is changing in the context of the consumer or people around us today, which makes it either difficult or easy to do certain kind of behavior? And from this lens, suddenly you'll ask, is UPI a good thing or a bad thing? Or better yet, when is UPI a good thing? When is UPI a bad thing for us in terms of purchase decision? Param, I'm missing out something out here. You want to add?
No, I'm good. Nothing more to add.
Okay. Adding to the same question, Prakash, Isha has asked if consumers has not necessarily changed, but the way choices are presented has changed. What is your prediction for how choice presentation will change in the coming future?
Oh boy. Okay. Let's assume people have enough money to spend. Okay, that's the big thing, right? We need to have enough money to spend. If you don't have a disposable income, you're not going to buy stuff, right? Well, you'll buy, but you'll buy differently. So, assuming you have the disposable income, the next question is how easy or difficult it is for you to make those buying decisions. We've already spoken about QR codes coming in, frictionless payment. Convenience. You don't even have to go outside. The shop will come to you at your house. The delivery is going to happen to you, right? As long as these trends keep on continuing, we are going to end up being a society that's going to keep on consuming, buy more. It is good and bad both. I'll not go into that debate. But I do understand if you are a marketeer, if you're a brand manager or a product designer or an entrepreneur, right? All trends point to consumption going up. Consumption being more prevalent, becoming much more easier for us to spend money, provided your brand appeals to the consumer. Right? And that's the big if. It's not just that spending money is easy. It's also launching new brands is easy, right? The other day I was reading up this fantastic note. I think it is Nikunj Biani from Superfood, and he said, all you need, bro, today is 2 lakhs to launch an entirely new D2C product. That's it. Your barrier to entry is so low, right? So This is the part, the competition, the number of choices available to you. Easy it is for you to discover them, or for you as a founder, for your product to get lost in the sea of products, versus the purchase, easy or not, smooth or not, seamless or not. It's going to be an intersection of these 3-4 things.
Okay. Thanks, Prakash. Param, this question is to you from Tanuja. In the cancer patient example, what about the role of trust as a variable? Doesn't that influence who people choose as the doctor, healthcare, and how would you account for that?
So, no, absolutely. The short answer is yes. Trust is a huge factor to play a role in that. When it comes to all healthcare decisions and money decisions, when it comes to money and health, these two are areas of our life where we are extremely vulnerable, right? As people, we feel vulnerable. And so there is a humongous quotient of trust involved in helping the person make a decision. So that's definitely there. In fact, the reason why it makes sense for a survivor to talk to a patient is because the patient feels that they can trust the survivor. Because they've been through the same journey, they have gone, they know what it is to be a patient. And so that automatically dials up the trust quotient significantly. So yes, absolutely, trust is a factor.
Thanks. Your example on smoking has struck a chord with a lot of people, Param. It's a long question from Prayans for you. Okay. Your quit smoking approach of building brand awareness around how much they smoke and their impulse around it seems similar to what I have been trying for managing distraction during work. People's tendency is to be guilty of the distractions. Any resources and tips on how to communicate non-judgmental awareness, trust, etc. via design? Anything else I might need to keep in mind?
Look, I think it goes back to context, right? Every context will need its own understanding of why people are doing what they're doing and why they're not doing what they're not doing. So there is no one size fits all answer, but I think some learnings from the smoking cessation project are that I think one interesting realization was that uh, people don't even realize what they're doing in their day-to-day life, even though they've been doing it for a long time. It has become part of their blind spot. Uh, there were many smokers who we asked them to track their smokes for the first, I think, about a week or something like that, or 10 days or whatever. And we asked them to track every cigarette that they have, and also capture why are they having it and how do they feel about it and where are they, and who are they with and all of that, some allied information. And one of the interesting things that we learned in that was that most smokers were surprised that they were having so many cigarettes and that they were having so many cigarettes at a particular time of the day and for a particular reason. So, that actually was one of the insights that led us to build some features around help, like what I call showing the mirror to the smoker. So I think the guilt that you talked about is definitely one of the things that people did talk about also, right? That when they try to quit and when it doesn't work, they feel guilty. So falling off the wagon rather, and trying to come back on the wagon is one of the unmet needs or the latent needs that smokers have. Because we know that quitting is not an easy journey. You are going to have a cliff. And so one of the needs that we needed to address was when people fall off the wagon, how do you get them back? And again, being non-judgmental was very, very critical in that. The way we did that, for example, the choices that we made in the product. So, for example, when the smoker first downloaded the app and installed it for the first time, they opened it for the first time. They were asked three options. They were given three options, if I remember correctly. It's been a while, but there were, I think, three options given in front of them. One was, what is your goal? Which is, do you want to quit cold turkey, which is one of the things that many smokers like and prefer. The other is, do you want to just reduce, or do you want to just track? You don't want to reduce, nor do you want to quit. You just want to track how many cigarettes are you having. That's it. So that gives a space for the person to feel like, okay, this is a non-judgmental space. I mean, that's just one of the examples, but many other things that we did to try and give them a sense that this is a completely non-judgmental space.
Thanks, Param. This question to both of you. From Preeti, how can we start prototyping and testing solutions in our current roles? Additionally, where there is room for error and failure is very limited. So, how can we experiment in these cases?
Prakash, you want to take that or should I go first?
See, what it's a function of who is your client, whom are you working with. A lot of it is a function of that, right? If you are, and also for what is it that the client has come to you, right? It is wrong to imagine a client comes to you for solving the entire problem. For example, a client might have challenges with their noodle sales in a particular geography. And the client will just come and tell me why it is happening. And it's a function of how departments are organized, because the department responsible for finding the answer of why it is happening cannot go and suggest we'll now change the product, because that becomes the different department's responsibility. So your scope itself is limited many a time, more than half of the time, saying, tell me A, limit yourself to that. And even if you want to go into solutioning, designing prototypes of what can be a different noodle, how can I change the packaging, right? And even if you're right, and the client you are working with may want to explore that, it cannot go ahead, because it becomes, it's very interesting the way we put organizations together, right? And then because they put a structure, the structure changes solutions. So first thing is, it's a function of whom you're working with. Number two, more often than not, when you have the chance, it's always scrappy. You do not get a huge budget right in the beginning to go and explore and do whatever you want. Not going to happen. When we were working with this chocolate company, and it's one of the biggest brand in the entire world. There's no country where they don't sell it, right? We had to literally draw chocolates on pen paper. Go that old school. Aisa hona chahiye. This is what the consumer is expected. These are the results of our expectation. These are the results of our experiments in terms of size and thickness, right? Be very okay and comfortable with being as scrappy and as zero cost when it comes to ideating right in the beginning. And if you can show the proof of concept of the saying this is a good direction, if you can catch the attention, then it's a question of finding the right budget. Think now let's experiment with A, B, or C in terms of product 1, 2, or 3. This is what my experience has been. Param?
So I think to add to what Prakash said, the other additional input I had was, I think being clear on what are you actually trying to address, what is the unmet need or latent need that you're trying to solve, and therefore figuring out what is the one little thing that you can change if it's an existing product or service that would make a difference. That would be something to prototype. So keeping it small and scrappy, as Prakash was saying, in the world of design thinking, we call it rapid prototyping, and being very frugal in that, right? And what we've seen in most companies is that people go from an idea directly to a pilot, and that's a mistake. You don't go to a pilot means that you're already putting in a lot of effort. You're sinking in too much effort, too much money, and too much resources. And guess what? There is a psychology that plays there as well, which is that when we put in a lot of effort into an idea and build it, we get emotionally invested in it. And so one of the critical principles of rapid prototyping is that, reasons for that principle is that you build something within few hours. The first prototype should be built within a few hours. If it takes anything more than a few hours, it means you're already getting too invested in it, and you're already setting yourself up for failure. When you go and show your prototype to consumers or customers and get feedback, you're unconsciously already too invested in it, and therefore whatever feedback comes to you, you're going to be filtering it through the lens of how do I make this work, and you're not going to be prepared to discard or throw away your idea. So I think those are some lessons that we've learned over time.
Thanks, Param and Prakash. An extension of this question and the answer what you provided. This question from Siddhi. While you're out in the field, how do you distinguish between what people say and what they actually do? The say-do gap. How do you distinguish between them?
That's a $1 billion question.
Classic one. It's number one, what people say they don't always do. There is a gap, right? But number two, not everyone knows how to say either. This is not a judgment thing. It is a reality of how folks are, right? See, me, you, Param, we're all talking in English. Every attendee out here is listening to us talk in English, and we all conduct our business, our work professionally in English, right? Do you think you can go and solve for a problem like Gutka by talking in English? You can't go and speak with folks in the country and say in English, say, tell me how do you feel about Gutka and how do you want to quit? No, you have to go and speak in Bangla, to speak in Tamil, to speak in Bhojpuri, Marathi, and two and other variants of it. So, and even there, you'll find limitation in terms of how people can talk. Not everybody can explain things. We've seen this while designing chocolates. People will say sweet, melty, silky across the country, and you realize, oh, these are the language taught to us by the ads. मीठा होता है, melt हो गया, कुछ मीठा हो जाए, amazing, silky smooth, right? And then you realize that there is no separate word to talk about how you feel when it comes to enjoying or indulging in chocolate. So it's not just the say-do gap. Even the say gap itself is there. How do people talk about it, right? So what we have found easier is to actually observe them in situ. Like a simple thing is, don't ask people, will you buy YouTube Red? It allows you to skip ads. People will say, of course, I would love it. What is the cost? $100 a month. And then you say, you know what, YouTube people are willing to skip ads for $100 a month. That's a wrong approach. The right approach is to ask them the question, in your phone right now, which are your paid apps? आपने किस के लिए पैसा किया? Do you have Spotify Premium? Do you have premium versions of, do you have Swiggy One? Have you paid that extra for other apps? In what context, right? This mapping, number one, comes from actually observing. Number two, keeping in mind that my respondent, my TG may not be able to articulate. And it's not just a question of English versus Bangla. Even people who are speaking in English sometimes, right? Words limit us, words bias us. That means you have to creating experiments. Rather than asking something, make them do something, simulate it. Go heavy on projective experiments. These two are things that we often fall back on as a team. Param, I'm sure you have something to add out there.
I'd love to, but I think we are 3 minutes away from time, so I'll leave the floor to Shiva to ask, see if there are other questions, or we can.
Okay, one final question. If you could recommend top three behavioral science principles that every marketer and researcher should understand, and what would they be and why?
I would recommend only one. Again, using behavioral science. 3 is too much to remember or focus on.
Okay.
Just master the art of reframing. Master the art of reframing, right? Everything in the world is a narrative. The world is not good or bad. The world remains the same. It's our interpretation of the world, the narration we as people tell ourselves, which also means that as marketeers, as brand folks, how are you going to reframe options, reframe your product? I would leave that as the most important psychological principle that we need to master.
Thanks, Prakash. We are approaching the end of our session. We still have many more questions from the audience, but given the time constraint, we may not be able to take all of them today. We'll try to get back to the remaining questions through email. A couple of quick announcements before we close. Sandesh, can you project the screen? Okay. Please mark your calendars for the 34th Annual MRSI Research Seminar 2026 to be held on 13th and 14th of October in Mumbai. MRSI invites researchers and practitioners to submit the synopsis under this year's theme, The Next Human. The submission deadline is 7th July 2026. The synopsis submission is open to all, and this includes non-MRSI members also. And MRSI is also conducting a badminton tournament on 8th and 9th of August in Mumbai. Please do join fellow industry professionals for 2 days of friendly competition, networking, and fun. And for more details on this registration and synopsis submission, please visit our MRSI's website and follow MRSI social media channels. Also, you can reach out to MRSI on info@mrsi.co.in. On behalf of MRSI, thank you, Param and Prakash, for sharing your expertise and practical examples with us. Thanks a lot for the insightful presentation. And thank you to our audience for participating and thoughtful questions also. Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you. Thank you, Shiva. Thank you, Prakash. Thank you, audience. Thank you so much. Thank you, MRSI.
Bye.
Bye.